It's that time of year again where we're thinking about the new year. We're thinking about our word for the new year. And likely we're sitting down to set goals or maybe attend a vision board party. But before you attend a vision board party, you have to know these key things that are making vision boards ineffective within the first 90 days. And I'm going to give you some tips on what not to do and what you should be doing instead. So as you hop on, please say hello. Let me know that you're here. And then if you happen to watch the replay, just go ahead and hashtag replay so I know that you came by. So before we dive in, let me just reintroduce myself in case you're new to this space here. My name is Vanessa Ann Miller, and I am a business coach and business strategist that is kind of like a brain trainer. So if you think about athletes, they have a trainer that tells them, that motivates them and inspires them to take action, but then also helps critique their technique so that they can improve. Well, that's what I do for business owners. And I use things like NLP, human design, subconscious reprogramming to help them get out of their own way and to find the clearest path to their goals so that they have less resistance. So right now, I am going live in a couple of different places, but I mostly hang out inside my Facebook group, The Aligned Businesswoman, and also on my podcast, The Aligned Businesswoman Podcast. So if you want to connect with me there, then join me inside that group or tune into the podcast. So let's dive in. And let's talk about the missing pieces so that you can have an effective vision board practice. Let me know in the comments if you already attended a vision board party or you're expecting to attend one pretty soon. Or tell me if you already set out your goals and you already mapped all of these things out. You already know at least what your next 90 days is going to look like, or the next year. Just let me know in the comments. And then if you're like, I've never done a vision board before, it looks interesting, but I don't even know how to go about, also let me know about that. I want to know like where you're at when it comes to vision boards and goal setting. And I want to make sure that when we're going through these things, why it's important to know, because the last thing that we want to do is train our subconscious mind that we take action on a certain thing and it doesn't work out for us, which prohibits us from continuing at that, or it creates an inner dialogue of maybe uncertainty or defeat. We don't want to do those things. So let's get really clear on the things that you can do to make this so effective that you reach your goal. So the missing components of a vision board, of creating a vision board that people often overlook, is that they don't think about something that is, they see this as a bonding experience, it's become more of like a party almost, right? When we create these vision boards, it's become like, oh, this is fun, let's do this. And so they overlook their like different parts of what happens in their bodies and in their brains to make this effective. And so vision board creation has become, again, like a bonding experience that we do maybe, with friends or family or coworkers, or if you're in network marketing with your downline, with your team, so that you could set the tone for the new year. But then we don't actively follow through. It's something that we just do because it's socially accepted in our circles, and then that's it. Maybe we put it up in our home office, and we look at it daily, and we think that maybe simply by looking at it, it's going to help us reach that goal. Now, I do believe that when you focus on something with intent, it is reprogramming your brain to do those things, to take action. But when it comes to vision boards and using that as a motivator, that doesn't necessarily happen. So vision board creation, what it does, it engages the amygdala. And the amygdala is a part of the brain where it is responsible for emotions, emotional behavior, motivation, and processing positive stimuli. So when you're creating a vision board, that's a positive feeling that you're creating, right? Your amygdala is activated. It's like, ooh, I'm feeling all these things. Well, the amygdala also has been primarily linked. In fact, this is like what we first thought about the amygdala. It was primarily linked to triggering the fight or flight response. So, AKA having that fear. Well, during the time that you're creating your vision board, dopamine is released. And dopamine is that feel good drug. You're just like, ooh, I feel so amazing, and you're loading up on this dopamine because what you're doing is that you're envisioning what it's like, you're daydreaming what it's like to be able to have the things that you're putting on your vision board. A lot of times we'll dream really big and, maybe go 2, 3, 4, 5 years out, like, ooh, this yacht would be nice, or traveling to this place would be nice, right? We like really allow our hearts to dream big. Well, the thing about dopamine is that it is all about the chase. It has a thrill when it comes to setting that goal. It loves the excitement more than actually achieving the goal. Have you ever experienced that before where you're like, and it's happened, maybe in our younger years where we have that excitement or that chase of that new relationship, and then we obtain that person, where we get in a relationship with that person, and it's like, oh, well, this is not so exciting. It's like the honeymoon phase, right? We can have the honeymoon phase when it comes to our vision boards and our goal setting. Let me know in the comments if you ever experienced that. You're like, you have that honeymoon phase and it's exciting and everything. And then it's like, after a while, it just kind of like gets boring, right? There's no chase, there's no excitement there. And so it really is hard to keep that momentum. So that's why sometimes after the initial rush of the setting the goal, sticking to the daily grind of achieving it can feel less exciting. So why not be aware, or we may not be aware, why not be aware, but we may not be aware of what is going on underneath the surface, because what we're thinking about, like, what we're experiencing is like this excitement, but because we're loaded up on this dopamine, behind the scenes, what is happening is that the amygdala is processing the challenges or the potential future, like failures or anything like in the pursuit of these goals. So basically it's like, okay, while you're having that dopamine rush and everything's all exciting, you're not realizing that underneath the amygdala is like, oh my gosh, but what if this happens? What are we gonna do if this happens? What if we fail? Because we're just like in the element of the creation, right? Which brings me to this intoxicating concoction whenever we are attending vision board parties. Because a lot of times when we're doing these vision boards, it's not necessarily by yourself. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. But mainly, especially because during the holidays, it's just like another way to gather around for the holidays. It's like another holiday party that we do. It tends to be, something that we do with friends and family. So when we're doing this in a fun setting, we're in this group setting, what is happening is that we're actually releasing oxytocin and serotonin. And these are the hormones of belonging and connection. This is a feel good concoction mixed with that dopamine. And it requires intention to replicate that feeling. So, as busy people, once we create that board, once we're creating that vision board, and we're at the party and we're on the having all the feels, and we're connecting with the people, enjoying just that sense of belonging with the people that we love, having that laughter, that oxytocin, that dopamine, that serotonin, all of that is just going through our brains, and this is like we're getting high on this elixir, right? We're getting like, ooh. But then when we leave the party, and it's a week into creating this vision board, these goals for the new year, and it becomes a month, 6 weeks, etc. We become busy. We go back to our busy lives. And yet we rarely slow down to get back into that same state, into that same, elixir of that serotonin and that oxytocin and that dopamine release. We get so busy, we get distracted, and we forget how that felt. And so we lose that fire that we had when we laid out these visions and goals. If we're not intentionally anchoring that and feeling that state again and bringing it up in our bodies and in our minds, then it's easy just to kind of let it go. It's kind of like what they say, out of sight, out of mind. Well, although we can see the vision board there, If we're only anchoring in the vision, and I'm going to explain what anchoring means later, then it's almost as if it is driving across country on a flat tire. It is going to take so much more effort to get there. Because again, rarely are we in the exact same conditions throughout the year as we are when we created that vision board. Which brings me to this phenomenon. And I thought it is so right. When I learned about this, I was like, oh my gosh, why didn't I think about this before? So there's this phenomenon that says that when we decide to start a new routine, whether that is a new workout routine or work towards a goal, we have a false heightened sense of motivation when we decide that we're going to start it at the beginning of the week, at the beginning of the month, the beginning of the year. It's like the new beginnings, fresh start phenomenon. But if you really think about it, we're not really resetting anything. At the beginning of the year, if we have not energetically disconnected from the things that held us back in the past, if we didn't do any kind of cord cutting, or if we just, have it in our neurology, if we keep remembering those things at an unconscious level, then it's going to be tied to us, right? And the same goes for positive things, positive learnings, resourceful things. We don't just, disconnect completely from year to year. We don't forget what happened. It's not like we're restarting, oh, we had to start all over again and remember, fine tune our skills and all that. We're building each and every year, right? So why do we treat every new year as if it's a fresh start? While it motivates us and it releases that dopamine, gets that excited, like it feels like that chase again, it still is not going to serve us in the long run. So what is a missing part of this vision board creation? As you may have already gathered, that is just so much more than just activating that dopamine, having that dopamine release and being around other people to feel that, elixir of just intoxicating connection in the feel good stuff, right? We take information through our senses. It goes through a filter before it finally becomes an image in our minds. So I want you to think about this right now. If you were to grab something that was around you, let's say I have this lotion thingamage. It's called New Moon Meditation Oil. I got this at Magnolia in Waco, right? Whatever the silos. Okay. I smell it. The first thing is I smell, right? And then a memory comes back. I can see the image in my mind. So our everyday, day-to-day activities, we are intaking information. We're taking, gosh, I think it's like over 2 million bits per minute, per second. And then we have these filters that allow certain things to come in. Side note, if you have never heard of the Herbalife meditation, I highly recommend that you practice that, because what it does is it expands your peripheral vision and your awareness so that you can actually tune into some of the things that we block out because we get so busy in life and in business. So when we are just going about our daily lives, we are blocking out some things that could be useful for us. Now, our subconscious mind has a programming and it has a way to quickly process useful, not useful. It's kind of like you checking your mail and you go quickly and you discard, any kind of junk mail, any flyers, anything that you're like, okay, I don't need these, I don't need these advertisements, but I do need these bills. I need to look at this later. So that's exactly what happens. And this information comes through our senses and then goes into creating an image in our mind. Now, you're going to have a predominant way to take in information. And you probably already know this, or you might be like, oh yeah, I never realized this. But either way, if you sit and think about this, then you're like, yes, and you're going to be able to choose right away. So you either have mostly a visual or auditory or kinesthetic way of perceiving information first. So if you're visual like I am, you can tend to speak really fast, move really fast, think really fast, because you're perceiving things through your eyes and that image creates in your head really quickly, right? Now, if you're auditory, you're going to hear the thing first, and then you're going to create the image. And same thing with kinesthetic, you're going to feel the thing. So When we're visual, it just things go a lot faster. It's just kind of information is like firing off a lot faster. So if you want to find out like which one you are, maybe you feel like a little mix of both, or all three or both, or two, whatever, which we are going to be at some point. We're a mix of all of them, but we do have one that is more dominant than the other. You can go Google VAC testing. It is basically you'll be able to see. Gosh, it smells so good. You'll be able to like see the different ways that we learn, because essentially when we're taking this information, it's also the way we learn things. So go ahead and Google that, and you'll be able to see what your learning style is. So let me ask you, and you can tell me in the comments. Have you ever noticed that you hear a song or you smell something and it triggers a feeling of nostalgia? Like right now, I smelt this and I literally had that image of when I bought this. I was with my mom. This is our last trip together before she got really ill. And it just takes me back to that space, that time, That is the memory stored in your body by the hippocampus. So I want you to be very, just really tune into this part right here. Because again, this is the missing pieces of creating a vision board. And while I believe that like having those vision board parties are fun, what I want to make sure that doesn't happen to you is that you're doing the thing. Again, I'm going to go back to what I mentioned at the beginning, is that you're taking the time to curate this vision board. And then you put it up and you look at it here and there throughout the year. And you're not actively, or you haven't actively started this process of what's going on in your body and your mind, or you don't know about it. So you're like missing some of these key elements. And, you're going throughout the year. And then at the end of the year, into 2024, you look at it again and you're like, oh, what was I thinking? Why did I even set that? Or why was I even imagining that? I don't want you to get to that point, because over time that can compound to us being more demotivated, or not really trying, or really reinforcing that inner dialogue of self-doubt and uncertainty. Okay, so really pay attention to this part, because I want you to be able to create an activity or an experience when you're doing this vision board party, for you to be able to activate these things and be aware of what's happening in your brain. So your hippocampus is like the mental scrapbook. It's holding on to important memories and lessons. But if you have bad past experiences or an old belief system that doesn't align with your goals, that's that self-doubt, or that, and sometimes we're unaware of it. It's like sometimes we're just like, I don't even know why I keep doing this thing, although we want something else, right? Well, when your hippocampus has, stores these memories that are not in alignment to where you want to go, we can experience self-sabotage throughout the year. Self-sabotage looks and comes in many different ways. It can look like things always, like, the shit hits the fan when things feel like they're going great. Or it can look like you wanting to be, perfect before you take action on something. It is the little lies that we tell ourselves that they're so little that we don't even recognize them. They just become a part of who we are and the way our MO, right? Our method of operation. When you attend the Vision Board and Goal Mapping Conference that we're hosting in January, I'm going to equip you with the tools to reprogram your neural pathways so that you have less resistance and maintain momentum throughout the year. And that is one of the key elements that's missing. So if you don't know what a neural pathway is, I want you to think of it like a dirt road. The more you drive on it, the more that road is formed, giving you another option to travel. It can either be a shortcut or a path in a different direction, or where you rather go instead. So when we're creating new neural pathways, think of it as just grass first. First it's grass, and then we keep going. We have that repetition. We keep driving down that way. We keep driving down that way. And pretty soon we flatten that grass. The more we do it, we flatten it more, and then it becomes dirt, and then it's that dirt road. So that's what I mean by neural pathways. Again, that is going to require repetition, but later on this week, I'm going to share a shortcut to having that neural pathway with the better habits that you want that are going to help you reach your goals. You can form those a lot faster. So that brings me to the anchoring and visualization. This strengthens your focus both emotionally and logically so that you achieve your goal. This is something else that's missing when it comes to vision boards. So the reason why I brought up how we perceive information through our senses is because the vision board, that is the visualization part, right? That strengthens our focus. But there's still other elements of our senses that is missing from this. Now, if you don't know what anchoring is, it's a form of conditioning. So, like in the case of Ivan Pavlov, if you ever heard of Ivan Pavlov, how he conditioned his dogs to salivate when he would ring the bell. He would ring a bell at first. He would ring a bell, feed them some meat, feed them something, and then he trained them to expect that he was going to feed them whenever he rang the bell. Well, pretty soon he was able just to ring the bell and they would salivate. So anchoring is a way of doing that, right? It is a way to program yourself to have a certain reaction with a physical stimulus. When we're doing vision boards, we're not doing that. We're just working solely with one part of our brain. We need to activate multiple parts of our brain so that we can have that whole buy-in, a full brain and body buy-in. So let me ask you, have you ever remembered a time when you experience intense emotions? I can. Whether it was anger or sadness. And I want you to go there right now. If it's something that is not traumatizing, please. But you can go back to that time. And maybe it was a time where you were sad. Maybe it was a sad movie. It's nothing real, but it's a sad movie. Sometimes if you get so into that image and you go back into that memory, you can maybe cry right now, right? Just thinking about that time. That's because your subconscious mind doesn't know what's the difference between what is real, imagined, or remembered. Now, we can either use that for our harm by thinking about, negative things, sad things, or, things when we were angry or feeling guilt or shame, or we can use it for our good. And that right there, again, is another key element to using or to having an effective vision board. During the Aligned Business Women's Circle, during the conference where we do the vision boards and the goal mapping, you're going to experience exercises that activates all of your senses so you can anchor in the excitement and motivation you're feeling for your goals. So later on, you can access that in the future. So, you can instantly get into that moment. So you're essentially using these exercises that I'm going to teach you at the conference to get into that same state, to replicate that same state in which you were in when you created the vision board. And that is going to keep that momentum going for you. So let me know, how are we doing in the comments? Are there any aha moments for you yet? Please share. If I can't catch your comment, I'll definitely come back and check on that. All right. So, and now we're understanding, okay, it's not just about the creating of the vision board and the releasing of the dopamine and, all the feel good stuff. There's more happening under the surface. So how can we leverage the time that we're spending and the resources that we're spending, gathering all the magazines and the tape and all the things, right? How can we make this so effective and, a great use of our time that we almost guarantee ourselves that we're going to accomplish that goal? I believe that vision boards are great to gain clarity, but it's when the action, that right there is the most important. Action requires continuous performance. So that brings in the prefrontal cortex. It is a very important partner along with the amygdala, which is the center again for emotions and motivation, emotional, just that the emotional response. The prefrontal cortex, it's the part of your brain that is like the wise mom friend who keeps everyone on track, and it kicks into gear whenever you are planning your goals out, right? So you can't just merely have a vision board party without actually goal mapping, without actually setting the tactics and the strategy for your goals. So your prefrontal cortex, it's helping you plan, make decisions, and see the bigger picture of what you're aiming for. So If you heard any of my past episodes of the Aligned Businesswoman podcast where I talk about goal setting, and in fact, there's one episode 84 we can listen to when I talk about goal setting, and I talk about how you must blend that emotion and that logic, because when you have too much emotion, you get too excited about the thing but not take action. And then whenever you have too much logical thinking, that emotion doesn't have that buy-in to keep you motivated. So we need both of those, right? And that is, activating the amygdala and then activating the prefrontal cortex. One of my favorite neuroscientists is that Dr. Andrew Huberman. He's a professor at Stanford, and he's the host of the Huberman Lab podcast. I say that because I think he's so dreamy. But he does extensive research on how we can best optimize our performance, both physically and mentally. And I swear I nerd out on his podcast because it's just really brainy, and I love it. And I highly recommend that you check it out. They are pretty long. Sometimes they're like 2 hours long, but listen to it like 1.5, 2.0, and you'll be able to get through it quicker. But he talks about how our brains and our bodies react to various situations. The reason why I don't want you to just solely utilize the vision boards as a way to release dopamine is because entrepreneurship often involves high stress situations and constant challenges. And according to Huberman's insights, a dopamine's role in motivation and stress response, like the continuous demand for high performance, can lead to a depletion of dopamine. So like while we are activating dopamine, we're releasing dopamine, right? When we're setting this goal and we love that chase, right? That chase is not sustainable. It is going to deplete us. It's going to lead to burnout. It's going to lead to decreased motivation. And it's going to increase our stress. When we have an increase of stress in our bodies and our minds, it attacks the gray matter that is in our prefrontal lobe, which is responsible for reasoning and logic. If we cannot logically make decisions as entrepreneurs, if we don't have that clarity, then we get results that match that, right? This is why we solely can't rely on the excitement of vision board creation to sustain us as we head towards our goals. So that is a lot of information, but today we officially open up registration for the Aligned Businesswoman Circle that I've mentioned before. It's the Vision Boards and Goal Mapping Conference. It is now officially open to the public at early bird pricing. This day is going to be incredible. It's going to be an incredible experience that helps you work with your mind, body, and soul to align with your goals for 2024, and also mapping out a practical strategy to reach these goals. And because I know your time is very, very valuable, we will make sure that you leave with professional headshots by our event underwriter, FemForce Photography, so that you are leaving with a plan that you curate. You're leaving with your vision board to keep you motivated. You are utilizing the exercises and the practices that I'm teaching you to anchor in those feelings through all of your senses, so that you are motivated throughout the year, but then you're leaving with that content. You're leaving with those headshots, you're leaving with the marketing content so that you can use, for social media and all the things that you need to be able to promote your business. So make sure that you join today because the spots are going fast. I did allow certain people to enter first, just kind of like seeing, the pre-sale to the early bird special, but now it's officially open to more people, which means it's going to fill up fast. If it filled up that quickly, or it's been going really full so quickly since I did that pre-sale to a small group, I can only imagine what's going to happen as we open it up to the public. So make sure that you saved your spot. And then join me later this week as I share one thing we stopped doing as adults that could actually cut the time in half to reach our goals. And so I'll share that with you later on this week. All right. I look forward to seeing you at the Aligned Businesswoman Circle Vision Boards and Goal Mapping Conference in January.